Welcome to Caching Waves. This is an Elliott wave update for AVAX. I haven't covered this one in a while, and I'm going to take a look at it for you. Now this is one I previously was looking for a short up in this area. Saw this as a completed 5-wave, looking for this as some sort of 3-wave correction needed to the downside. So still have this as 5 waves to the upside. Now, you can make an argument whether the wave 1 should be up here and 2 here. You can see how close this came to invalidation at the low. Unclear, but one thing that's clear to me is this is most likely 5 waves to the upside. Whether you put your 1 here and the low over here and it's actually a diagonal, doesn't matter too much. Now I labeled this specifically this way for one reason, and that is that the length of our wave 1 off of our wave 4 hits the 1-to-1 extension. Other reason I have this as our 4th wave is just going back to regular rules with Elliott wave. Where do we see diagonals, right? In 5th waves. So see this most likely as a diagonal for our 5th. Everything looks good for that wave 5 equaling wave 1 and diagonal for our 5th wave. Indicators aren't that helpful here, although the most volume is within our 3rd wave here. So that's how I have that labeled. Again, you can make this into a diagonal, but we have no overlap in that scenario if this is our 1 and 2 between our wave 4 and wave 2. So I prefer this count myself. Other thing to note, why and the wave here, it's channeling quite nicely, so I expect this to be part of something else. Now, if we take a look here, we have a clear 3-wave move up, so I consider that a B wave. If we take the retracement of this A wave, add the 1.236, 1.382, that's the zone we're looking for, invalidation past the 1.618. So not ideal hit, but very nice 3-wave move up to our B and X zone. Now we have clearly a 3, right? Up in this area, what are we looking for? We're looking for 5 waves down as a flat pattern. In this case, a expanded flat where we made a lower C wave below our A wave. So in a expanded flat, we make our A wave, B wave makes a higher high above our impulse, and our C wave makes a lower low below our A wave. Tough pattern to recognize in real time, but once complete, it becomes quite obvious, right? Now, another thing, just to see if you're on the right side of things, is a flat pattern. You're looking for an ABC or 3 waves, like so, ABC. But if you're having trouble counting the waves, you can just add 4 to them. If you see some good separation, like how you see an ABC here, and 5 waves down here. So you can add 4 waves to your 3 waves, and you're looking for 7 waves. 1, 2, 3, ABC, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you can add 4 waves again. So we have 3 plus 4 plus 4, 11 waves, right? That's how you can count if you have a completed correction, potentially completed. So we have 11 waves there, considered a 3-wave move complete. Now the opposite works for impulses as well, the same scenario, except we look for 5-wave impulses, right? You can add 4 to that, 9 waves, add 4 to that, 13 waves, etc., and so on. We use that more when we get extended waves like this. Anyways, we have a 11-wave pattern for an ABC, potentially complete. What I like even more about that is if I take our fib pull from the low to the high, we came right to that golden zone. That's the ideal trade you will get. I actually do this on larger time frames, and I kind of forget about them sometimes. I did this with ICP. It had the same hit right at that zone. And that is, if you're on a long-term, like 4-hour chart or even a daily, you can put in a limit order and just forget about it. That's what I do a lot of the times. And you put it at the 618, stop at the 66. I know some people use the 65. I prefer the 66. And why that's so helpful is if we hit that trade, that's called the golden zone trade, and this is a 1-2, our target for a third wave eventually is the 1.618 extension of that, which is up around $400+. So you can see that ends up being like a 300 to 1 risk reward if that ends up being a third wave. Although the pivots might change because we should be taking from the beginning of wave 1 off that low, right? Or sorry, from the end of wave 1 off of that low. So it'll be probably more like a 200 to 1. But you can see how good that trade setup is. It can make your whole year in one little trade that you put in a limit order way months ago, right? And just forgot about it. So anyways, looks like we have a potential complete ABC. Now we have to look for evidence for a impulse to the upside. Now I want to see what happens here if we break this this trend line to the downside of our diagonal. We're right there on linear scale, getting close, but I want to see that on log scale, us eat through that. Now we're going to go to the smaller time frames, talk about this setup, but it is quite ugly. Again, when I can't get a good wave count, I go to default of Fibonacci hits and retracements. This is kind of the best I can count this currently, but waves are so ugly. These waves are so ugly. This is hard to count as a diagonal. I consider this could be a 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, but this came so deep as a 1-2. It's not counting guidelines ideally. We're actually holding within a modified pitchfork, which is a channel, as you can see currently. So I've gone over this for quite a while. I think I like this as a wave 1 the best until proven otherwise. But again, it's ugly. This is like a wave 1 and 2. 1, 2, 3. Where was it? 4. Oh, sorry. Forgot how I labeled that. It was like 1, 2, 3. This is our fourth wave. No, that wasn't it either. How did I label that? I think it was... Forget how I labeled that. Okay. 1, 2. Oh, that's how I did it, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4 with a flat 5 for a third wave. So we have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. It has to be a flat here because we can't overlap, right, with this wave 1. And then we got a wave 5. So that makes 3 waves. Very ugly, as you can see. I'm just trying not to invalidate any rules. And then we have our wave 4 here, which doesn't overlap with this wave 1, and our 5-wave move up for our 5th. But you can see it's a stretch. I hate when I have to stretch on these things, right? So technically, doesn't invalidate any rules, but just a very funny looking wave 1, right? We then have our wave 2. I have this as an ABC with a diagonal to end. Again, not pretty either. And you can relabel this many different ways. But just to keep things simple here, have this as a diagonal ABC. But again, so much overlap, it can be relabeled as WXYs, many different things. When I'm trying to push too much of a count that's not fitting guidelines, I'd more look at shape and retracements and extensions, right? So from our wave 1, we hit just through the 50. Which is our ideal area for our wave 2. This wave is ugly as well. I have this as a 1, 2, 1, 2. But very ugly count. You can also switch this to a diagonal. When you're pushing so hard, I would just more focus on the direction. If you follow my videos, you know I focus a lot just on what's the next direction, and the wave count will eventually expose itself, right? As long as you get the direction correct, which was obvious back here that we had a diagonal filling out. So when you see this reversal at the 618, you know, it's a clear long. It's a clear long. And just let the wave count fill itself out. But that's how I have that as a diagonal. Not pretty. This correction, not pretty, but holding fib levels nicely, right? Have some running flats in here. Again, using volume and RSI here. Most volume right there in this wave. Looks like a third of a third, but nothing to lean into, nothing obvious for RSI. So what I'm expecting here is a correction soon. So I took the beginning of wave 1 off the top of wave 1 off of our wave 2. Okay, we're looking for our third wave in blue around 30.95. Right now I can count up to our third wave in green as a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 with a flat, 4, 5. So looking for this fourth wave and a fifth wave to complete up to that 30.95 area, in which case we'll get a larger fourth wave and our eventual fifth wave up between 34.40 and 36.72. And then we have a nice clean 5-wave pattern. Now, this could get relabeled. You can see how sloppy this wave is. I'm not extremely happy about that. But if we get a pullback here, remember we're within our third wave in green. So what I did is I took the beginning, just make sure that's lined up somewhere in this area. You'll have to check your exact measurements, but there's 5 waves up for our third. That's our fib pull looking for our fourth wave. Ideally we correct to between the 236 and the 50, right? Ideal area is 236 and 382, but we want to hold above the 50. Invalidation is overlap with this wave 1 or the 618. So pretty tight stop. If there was a you can put it actually at the 50 is where I do it. Use guidelines on this one just because this wave is so sketchy. But there is a trade setup there. You can see we're targeting that 30.95. It's like 3-to-1. It's not too bad. But I'm not highly confident on this. This could easily turn into some sort of diagonal. You can see why I'm not confident in this. The separation, the count of this first wave. But I will say this. If we end up making this sequence here, this 5-wave impulse, I think this is just using guidelines here. It's way more likely we're in a third wave in blue than a 1-2-1-2. Again, you know why. I usually look for the 618 and the 1-to-1. If we start passing that, it's most likely a C wave or a third wave, right? I'm just using basic Elliott wave knowledge, right? So when I am interested in this is over here, because this becomes our larger wave 1 and 2. So me personally, I'm not interested in scalping or trading this at the moment, but I am waiting for a 5-wave move up between that 34.40 and 36.72. Now if we come out to the 4-hour, our probability shift to the upside here is when we pass the 618 to the downside, which is at 39.34. So if we can get a nice clean to finish up this 5-wave move to the upside, nice pullback, this is what we're looking for, right? Breakout above this downtrend line, make our 5-wave move, and retest that trend line. That's our buy, right? That's the buy. That's the 1-2 we are looking for, the big one, right? But that looks like it would be most likely sometime in September. We would get that unless we get moving here quickly. But that's what I'm looking for AVAX, guys. Now, if something changes and this starts taking off, I'm going to put some alerts on this just so I'm aware. There is always the possibility we just take off, right? Let me just put an alert. AVAX reaching target so I can keep an eye on it. But this is what I look for. I look for a pullback now or a little bit higher. Look for that fourth wave and fifth within that third, and just want to see this continue to the upside and complete a 5-wave impulse. But until that happens, not interested. If we start plowing through, I'll have to recheck this count. But as for right now, this is what I'm looking for. 5 waves to complete. Third wave around 30.95, our fifth wave target. The 1-to-1 extension of wave 1 off of wave 4, or 34.40 to 36.72. Our pullback, this is where I'm interested in AVAX. All right, guys. So thank you to... This was helpful for you guys when you're not getting clear wave counts. Focus on how many waves you see. Can you get a count out of it? What kind of fib levels are we hitting? And using the guidelines of those fib levels and extensions to fit the count the best. And this is how I see it currently. All right, guys, that's it for AVAX. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.